The year is 1829, and all French novelist Victor Hugo cares about is Gothic architecture. Hugo, who would go on to write Les Mis later in his life, is horrified to see the medieval gargoyles and stained glass windows of Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral being destroyed and replaced with newer aesthetics. Determined to make his contemporaries care about preserving the original design of Notre Dame, Hugo writes a tragic novel about a deformed bell ringer in love with a beautiful dancer, set largely within the walls of the cathedral. The book becomes immensely popular, and besides sparking public interest in historical preservation and leading to major renovations at Notre Dame, it covers themes of race, religion, and morality, notably incorporating characters at all levels of society, from the King of France to the poorest beggars. Now let's skip forward to 1993. Walt Disney executives, in the middle of a string of successful movies known as the Disney Renaissance, look at Victor Hugo's bleak tragedy filled with genocide, lust, and religious fanaticism and think, yeah, we can make this work. To their credit, the Mouse knows how to hire some good songwriters, and Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz's score is fantastic, even if the movie itself sometimes comes off as an awkward toning down of very dark and adult source material. Finally, this brings us to today's musical. It first opened in 1999 Berlin, Germany as Der Glockner von Notre Dame, Disney's first musical to premiere outside the US, and came to the La Jolla Playhouse in 2014. An attempt at creating a Victor Hugo adaptation with the score of Disney's Hunchback, it features new songs by Schwartz and Menken and an overall darker tone. If the creators can successfully merge the beloved Disney soundtrack with a more faithful retelling of the original story, then I have a hunch this will be a good musical. I'm the Broadway Neophyte, and this is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. All the people down in Paris like the Feast of Fools a lot, but Frollo, the archdeacon of the church, does not.
Oh, look at them down there. Like horrible vermin!
He's a fun guy. He's also pretty racist against gypsies, better known as the Roma people today.
Through borders porous as a sieve, we let them come and let them live. It's almost as if they were given sanctuary. How it fills me with disgust to walk amongst them, yet I must. I loathe to leave you and our trusty sanctuary.
We learn that Frollo grew up with a brother, Jayon, who strayed farther and farther from the church, eventually becoming the town drunk. When Jayon and his Roma wife both died of the pox, they left their deformed baby in the care of Frollo.
And the saints regarded Frollo from their stone facade.
After a 20-year time skip, the adult Quasimodo paints his face with deformities and puts on his hunchback before the audience's eyes, and rings the bells that descend from above, a sequence praised by theater critics as sick as hell. Quasimodo is now partially deaf from years of ringing the bells, and incorporates some sign language in his speech.
Joseph fled into Egypt.
Yes, with his wife, Mary, and
Baby Jesus.
Yes.
That is BTW Michael Arden, who also directed Deaf West Theater's Spring Awakening revival. Up in the bell tower, Quasimodo has only imaginary talking statues for company, and all he wants is for Frollo to give him permission to go outside for one day. These millennials, right? He decides to go to the Feast of Fools in disguise, where we meet Roma people, including Clopin, who's sort of a fun trickster character, and Esmeralda, a dancer who Quasimodo, Frollo, and Phoebus, the captain of the Paris Guard, all take notice of. She soon proves herself to have more than her looks when she rescues Quasimodo from an angry mob. She's kind, outspoken, brave, quick-thinking, and strongly committed to justice for her oppressed people.
Why do you hate us so much? What did we ever do to you?
More than you know. What are you doing here?
I came here to find that boy. Someone had to help him.
That boy doesn't need your help. He's my charge. God loves even a monster.
He's no less human than the rest of us.
Oh, some of us are less human in the moral sense.
Do you mean me?
You dance in public without shame or modesty.
I dance because I enjoy it.
And while she befriends Quasimodo and despises Frollo, it's Phoebus who ultimately wins her heart.
In my life, I've
things too. Heroes die and cowards flee. And I've learned life don't give a sou for sentimentality. No, my lovely, nor should we.
I don't believe you.
You need to be
Inside you.
like me.
Quasimodo sees Esmeralda kind of like an angel representing kindness and freedom, while Frollo sees her as a demon of temptation. The songs they sing about her are even called Heaven's Light and Hellfire. But the tavern dance where she's actually on stage shows her as neither of these, just a woman kind of having fun with her people and reciprocating Phoebus's flirting. Frollo, being the repressed religious guy that he is, decides that if he can't have Esmeralda, he has to kill her to protect the morals of Paris.
Don't let this siren cast a spell. Don't let her fire sear thy pleasure more. Destroy Esmeralda, and let her taste the fires of hell, or else let her be mine and mine alone.
Seeing himself as the victimized hero in this situation, he orders the guard to set fire to the town to drive out Esmeralda and arrest her for witchcraft. But Phoebus has second thoughts.
And he held the torch that crackled like the gypsy's voice. Are you disobeying the direct order? And he knew this was the moment he must make a choice.
Shocked that Phoebus would betray the established rules of the musical by singing his internal monologue in third person, Frollo stabs him and convinces everyone Esmeralda did it, while she escapes with the injured Phoebus. Her magic tricks are all done with these impressive smoke and light effects that absolutely sell the idea that if you were a 15th century French peasant, you'd believe she was a witch. So at this point in the movie, the gargoyles sing an awkwardly timed comic relief song while Paris is on fire. Luckily, this is a darker, more mature kind of adaptation, which can replace this with another awkwardly timed comic relief song.
Find Esmeralda in that secret hour.
Bring her back, keep her safe up here in the tower. Just like Saint, what's his name?
Sorry, Amnesius.
Just like Saint, what's his name? Saint Aphrodisias.
It serves pretty much the same purpose of Quasimodo deciding to save Esmeralda so he can be her hero, but at least the decapitated saint allows them to show off a cool special effect. Quasimodo and Phoebus follow a coded map from Esmeralda, and we get some fun interactions between the two.
When you wear this woven badge,
You hold the city? Makes no sense!
House true.
Could it be magic? She is supposed to be a sorceress.
They make their way to the Roma hiding place, the Court of Miracles, where we learn that Clopin is the type of fun, wacky guy who's totally okay with murdering anybody who knows too much.
Dead got talk. So they won't be around to reveal what they found. Never met before spies and intruders, not terribly different from things in a hide. Here in the Court of Miracles, where it's a miracle if you get out alive.
Luckily, Esmeralda shows up in time to save them, and she and Phoebus sing a bland love duet that's improved by intertwining their pretty harmonies with Quasimodo despairing that he was never meant to find love. Frollo captures Phoebus and Esmeralda and says he'll spare their lives if Esmeralda agrees to be with him, and they both agree they would rather die. Together they sing Someday, a very Les Mis-esque song about their somber acceptance that they won't live to see a world of justice.
Someday, life will be fair.
Life will be fairer.
We will be rare.
We will be rarer.
Greed will not bear.
We will not bear.
God speaks when
Seeing Esmeralda being burned at the stake snaps Quasimodo out of his depression, and he rescues her and hides her inside the cathedral as Frollo's guards try to break in. Being the most metal hunchback this side of the River Seine, he stops the guards by pouring molten lead on them. thanks Quasimodo for being a good friend and dies of smoke inhalation, and Frollo makes his way up to the tower and tells Quasimodo that the city can finally be free of her corruption, prompting Quasimodo to throw him off the tower.
You don't want to hurt me. Yes, you do. Quasimodo raised his two huge hands, and with a great bellow threw his master
Over the edge of the roof!
into the abyss below.
So Esmeralda's dead, Frollo's dead, Phoebus just kind of wandered off, and Quasimodo finally begins his new life in the outside world, realizing that it contains tragedy and injustice, but also acceptance and love. Oppressive religious values are a major theme of the show, and they're evident in the score too, with an imposing chorus and church bells looming over many of the songs. The Romance songs are more light and danceable, Phoebus's resemble military marches, and when Quasimodo sings alone, he gets softer songs that contrast his monstrous appearance. Specifically, Out There is a painfully sweet I Want song in the vein of Somewhere That's Green or Salt Like a City, where the unfortunate ingenue has pretty mediocre standards for their unreachable fantasy and dreams of things most people take for granted. It's the first time we see Quasimodo as he sees himself. He is noticeably more coherent, thoughtful, and confident when he's alone, standing up almost straight and using his songs to communicate as he can't with speech. He wants the same things anybody else in his situation would: freedom, adventure, human connection, even if he can't express himself to the outside world. There's also Esmeralda's song, God Help the Outcasts, which, like Out There, shows us a new and unexpected side of a character. We have already seen Esmeralda captivate the crowd with her tambourine dance, but here she sings a very different song, a prayer asking God to look after her mistreated people. Itself being pretty, I think the set and lighting in this one succeeds in conveying the majesty of the Notre Dame Cathedral filled with candles and worshippers in the evening. I think Hunchback the Musical does a pretty decent job of combining Victor Hugo's story with Disney's soundtrack. A lot of the plot is narrated by the ensemble cast, preserving the sense of an epic novel told in third person. Including Frollo's backstory explains more about his racism and religious severity, and the addition of Quasimodo's partial deafness from the book creates a compelling disconnect between him and other characters. Interestingly, while the movie gives a happy ending to all three heroes and the novel ends with everyone miserable or dead, the musical seems to be trying to split the difference by killing Esmeralda, but letting Quasimodo have a bittersweet ending where he's accepted by the outside world. Ultimately, which version of Hunchback you prefer depends on whether you look at it as a hopeful story about overcoming abuse and prejudice to fight for justice, or a tragedy showing what will happen to innocent people if we can't do this. But if you are Victor Hugo, it's mostly about saving your favorite cathedral like a plucky Disney Channel protagonist. I'm the Broadway Neophyte, and be nice to your fellow man, and don't let someone pour a cauldron of molten lead on you, because that can happen at any time.
Topsy-turvy! Beat the drums and blow the trumpets! Topsy-turvy! Join the bums and thieves and strumpets streaming in from Chartres to Calais! Scurvy knaves are extra scurvy on the 6th of January, all because it's Topsy-Turvy Day!